When somebody who can only be described as a genius dedicates 4 years of his life designing and building his dream tiny house, then you know it's going to be something absolutely incredible. And this next tiny house that we're about to visit does not disappoint. G'day Phil, how's it going, mate?
Good, thank you. Good to meet you, mate.
It is great to meet you.
Yeah.
I've been watching you on YouTube for a while. I've watched the whole journey of this incredible home come to life, and congratulations on being finished.
Thank you. While is certainly the key word there. It took a long time to build.
How long was it in the end?
Yeah, about 4 years. If I knew how hard it was going to be, I probably wouldn't have done it. Two things is, A, I did it entirely myself. B, the complexity of the build. So I really wanted to join two trailers together that were truly mobile.
Yeah.
And so I had this crazy idea of how I'm going to put them together, but I wanted to look beautiful as well.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look seamless inside, and that was far more complex than I ever could have imagined. And so, 4 years later, that and I went completely over the top. Like, I've handmade everything from the axles up. The whole thing's automated. Beautiful finishes inside, like all the timber I've made. It's just, there was so much work that went into it, which has created a really unique, beautiful product. But 4 years later, here we are.
Yeah. You are so right about that. And joining two trailers together, that's something that sounds easy when you just say it like that. But the actual practicality of waterproofing it, making sure that everything's really well joined, and then, as you say, to do it seamlessly, that is taking it to a completely different level.
It's funny, people kind of reached out to me and said like, what drawings have you done for this? I'm like, nothing, it's in my head. And the truth is, if I had to design, I don't think I would have been smart enough to actually sit down and design this from scratch, and I probably wouldn't have done it. I remember when I first started, I told the guys at the hardware store, because I knew them well, it's like, this is what I'm doing. Like, if you make that work, you'll be famous. I'm like, I'm going to give it a go. So I was like, how could we stay true to this idea of a tiny house that is mobile and we can move if we have to, but be able to utilize the space of two trailers, but I wanted to make them small enough I could tow them with a large four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went down that path, and just the complexity of trying to join two trailers together. So you've got these 3-ton structures that pivot in the middle that you have to line up pretty much perfect. It just was insanely hard. And you're right, to make that weatherproof, not only just if it rains, what happens when the rain comes in sideways?
Yeah.
What happens when the water sits there and actually get this capillary action and it starts flowing in? And so the roof up there that actually retracts back inside the side trailer there, that's a sliding roof, has this whole system of flashings and little gutters and stuff where water flows. And then the walls, you can have driving rain in there, but how do the walls swing out in a way that actually becomes weatherproof and then swings back in and becomes transportable? Just an insane amount of time and thinking that went into it. Part of it was lining it up, and I came up with this idea of hooking one trailer onto the side of the other, which allowed me then to move one trailer back or forth until they're square. Right. And because it was hooked onto the side, I had this datum point that actually gave me a set distance, and then all I need to do was level them, and I've got a set distance, and if it's square, the wall should swing out and then lock into the side trailer. That worked. And then all the cover pieces inside to make it look like not the house is just set up, but they can come off so I can lift up the floor, pull those walls back in, but also allow for movement. The L shape actually makes it really solid, which is great. But being able to compensate for any movement's going to happen there so I don't jam up or I can't get things in afterwards was difficult. That said, would I do again? No. Do I love what it's created? Absolutely.
Yeah. The engineering that's gone into making this possible is just so impressive. But what's even more impressive is you doing all of this completely by yourself. I see out back, you've even built your own crane to help with this project.
Yeah. So I kind of set off to try and build this thing myself. I had this, 2 hands and just go build a tiny house. And very quickly I realized I'm going to struggle. And one day I was putting one of these swinging walls up on there, positioning it when I was trying to build this whole structure. And a post slipped off the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do I do this? I'm like, I need a way to lift stuff. And so many tangents that happened in the build. I ended up building a crane. So I'm like, I have no idea how to build a crane. So I'm like, okay, I'll give this a go. And so I started researching how cranes built and then crane accidents to see how they fail. And then so I started just building one. So I built this 7.5 meter crane that hooks under the back of my rider on as counterweight. So without that, I honestly couldn't have done it. But I used that crane on the exterior pretty much full time.
That is just such a huge undertaking. What was your prior skill set that sort of helped to make all of this possible?
I just grew up in a workshop. I had a father who was really practical. You know, some people had PlayStations, I had a workshop, and that's where I grew up. And so I just made stuff, and I'm really good with my hands. And so it's not that I know how to do everything, it's more I know how to learn how to do those things. And probably 25% of this build was just working out how to do stuff I hadn't done before.
Yeah. And while you were building this, you were living out of a smaller tiny house that you created earlier.
The micro tiny house. Yeah. So long story how I ended up here, but I kind of got to a shed with just 4 tin walls, and I'm like, okay, I'll get out of my tools, start doing I need somewhere to live. And so I ended up building the micro tiny house, a tiny thing, like almost on a car trailer, just like one little single bed, little shower over the tow bar, and a little box for a composting toilet.
Great.
And that survived me 5 years that I was here and the 4 years I was building this.
Yeah. And what is the land that we're on here?
So this is my land here down in southeast South Australia. So I've got the shed here, which was the workshop I worked out of, and land through the end, which is really nice, beautiful spot. Long term won't be the right spot for this house with all the steel cladding, so the plan is to eventually relocate it.
Great. Again, an undertaking like this is just so huge. What was it that made you want to do this?
Long story. I worked federal government quite a few years, long time, and had this whole personal journey where I lost my parents over a couple of years, and then I kind of started looking at what's important to me in life, and I ended up doing a startup and then shutting that down. Then went overseas for a bit and come back, and I was consulting, and I was over that. I guess I'm throwing this in. I'm going to go build a tiny house, live off grid, and then I just don't have all these outgoing expenses, and I can sit down and work on the projects I want to be doing.
Yeah.
So in some way, it was kind of a personal journey. I called the first 2 years of being here a meditation. Initially, it was going to be like 6 to 9 months. I blew out by miles, but what a luxury to have, this period in life where I've sat here and built this thing. So yeah, I think it was probably definitely a personal journey that brought me here and trying to push away from a life that I'd had. And then part of it was just the joy of building.
Yeah. And I'm really sorry to hear about the loss of both of your parents. They must have been so young.
Mum was 54 and dad was 65, 66.
Gosh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, neither made retirement. I think that probably drove a lot of the reason I came and did this was, we kind of go work hard and forego a lot of life. And then the idea is we get to retirement, enjoy life. I'm like, well, you might not even make retirement.
Yeah. And you are an entrepreneur now as well. So being an entrepreneur, I know it's really, really great to have that safety net to always fall back on, to know that you can take a few more risks because you've always got that fallback right here.
Yeah. There's kind of this like mental thing of, covering some bases. And at the very least, I could default back to here. Bills are paid. I can live in this and buy groceries and know I'm safe. And it's like just build off from there.
I remember when I finished my tiny house, I had this feeling of this is as far as I can fall now.
Yes.
It was like that safety net, right? Like I'm never going to be homeless. No matter what, I'm always going to have a roof over my head. I've always got solar panels that are going to give me energy. This is as bad as it gets.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely gives a sense of security, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And so back to the home. This is built on 2 4.8 metre trailers. Do you know what the total square meterage is?
Yeah, it's about 25 square metres. The other thing I did was kind of think about long term, if I want to be able to move them. I kept them low enough just that I could put them on a low loader and then move them across the country in a semi.
Great. What's the total height?
I think 3.9. Yep, to the top.
Brilliant. Yep. And you've kept the design really clean and modern. I love this style.
Yeah, I very much a minimalist. So I wanted something that was very clean, minimal, but had these like fun little moments in the house. Like I love natural materials. I have this theory that what makes houses timeless and beautiful is natural materials.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the dark iron, but you can still see the hardwood timber through it, so you get this color contrast. So yeah, very clean and minimal, but then you get to like celebrate little moments in the house as opposed to just filling it full of stuff.
Yeah, you're so right about that. Well, from the outside, I just love the look of what you've created here, and I cannot wait to see the inside. Can we check it out?
Let's go have a look.
Let's do it. This is incredible. It's modern, it's minimal, and it's also really elemental feeling.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little space inside. I kind of wanted this minimal, clean feeling. So yeah, the finish is beautiful, and I love natural materials, as I was saying. So inside, it's really clean with nice little details that sort of, I really enjoy, like the light switches against the wall and the hardwood timber. And I didn't want like downlights through here, so I've tried to hide the lighting into sort of the roof and into the space.
Yeah. Immediately in here, I'm just completely blown away by the level of customization.
And I feel the pain from it too. I was joking with someone that I was actually cabinet making the interior of this house, like 5mm shadow lines everywhere. But one of the things I love about this is you won't ever walk into another space and see this.
No. Standing in here as well, you get a completely new appreciation for the level of complexity because the join between these two trailers is flawless.
Yeah. I cannot begin to explain how hard that was. Particularly, I have the sliding roof and that'll work. I'm like, how on earth do I make that work with a seamless interior?
Yeah.
And somehow I've managed to make that happen. And, you know, like between these panels here that are kind of quite narrow, they're the hinges for the swinging walls. Up the end there, around those doors, there's like brass detail on the doors. Like, oh, it looks really nice. That's all to try and hide it. But try and line that up so it's removable was pretty difficult. But I'm grateful and lucky that I actually pulled that off. And it does look seamless and it flows through. And people come like, how the hell is this joined together?
Yeah, I bet. And then the way that the two trailers also add to the sensation of space is really interesting as well. It's not often in a tiny house you get to wonder what's around a corner.
Oh, the one thing I love about this sense of depth. The bedroom disappears around there, and then the bathroom, like the shower, just sort of disappears around the corner. You get different bits of light glowing in, and it's great because I get these separate spaces. Particularly when I'm working in here, I want to be able to separate where I work, where I relax, and where I sleep. I don't want to be working where I'm sleeping, and so I get this separate space. The feeling being in here feels like it's much bigger than what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does. Now, one of the things that I do notice though, is you have custom built all of the windows and the look of the windows is just incredible. Being able to have that full glass front just looks so good.
Yeah.
But it has meant that none of your windows in here are opening.
Yeah, so that's been one of the downsides. I get beautiful light, but to try and make them opening, it was probably beyond me and the design I was going for. So to do airflow, I've actually made electronic air vents. You sort of touch a button, the piece of glass slides up inside the wall, and then a safety mesh on the outside. So I can get airflow. So there's two at the end of the main trailer there. There's one in the bedroom. So the idea is to get cross flow throughout the house. Yeah, they just slide up inside there. And because everything is automated, you know, if it rains, the house can shut itself down.
Of course it does.
Yeah. And of course, you know, if I, want some extra airflow, I have my moon roof, which is the sliding roof here, which can open up.
That is so clever. I can see why this took you 4 years.
The level of detail and how do you make a sliding roof work and then make it look like it's just, it's just some shadow lines of plywood. That was hard. And then other things like, there's actuators inside these walls that pull pins back in from the side trailer there. And that's what locks the walls in. I'm like, what if one dies? How do I get to them? All of the ply in here, there's not a single fastener.
Yeah.
It's all polyurethane onto the wall. So you don't see nail holes. It's completely seamless. How do I do that with panels I have to remove and you've got screws? And so that was a challenge in itself to make them, those 4 panels are removable and stuff like that.
How did you do it? Are they magnets or what did you do in the end?
So magnets and sort of some cleats. So where it slides down, this plywood sort of overlaps. So it slides down in, so that holds the joint in nice and tight. Magnets along each of the studs. And then up the top there's an aluminium rail with screws in, so I can get up the top, unscrew that, and sort of comes out, then it lifts off, and the same with the bottom there. So if I pull the floor panels out, I can get up and unscrew it. So it's not something you want to do regularly, but I hope I never have to get in there and fix them. But if one ever does fail, I can get in there and pull the pin out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Going back to the air vents that we spoke about before, again, that's not an off-the-shelf thing. You would have had to design, build, program all of that, right?
100%. Yeah, all of it. And so just working out how you even slide a piece of glass so that it, is weatherproof and it's airproof, and then putting drive motors up inside there. I designed the circuit boards, had them made, wrote the code for that all to work, and then hook into the automation. And then again, what happens when it fails? So, that shelf at the end there can come out, and then I can pull panels off of the wall so that I can get up and, fix the lead screw and service as I need to. So that's, 60% of making it work. And then the other 40% is well, what if something goes wrong and how do you fix this and how do you make it maintainable? So yeah, everything, every last screw in this place I've had to put in myself and make. So yeah, all of the customization there with those windows and making them work was me. Yeah.
My jaw's on the floor, eh? That just completely blows my mind. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. The lighting in here, beautiful as well. I love the way that you've done this. Again, it really fits the aesthetic. It's, again, custom.
Yeah. I kind of have this aversion to like white plastic downlights or a white plastic fan in the bathroom there. So I kind of come this idea of hiding lighting and shadow lines. Now that didn't really work with the existing joins that I had, and I played around. I really like the light glowing down off to the side. So I came up with the idea of doing faux shadow line, which is just like these lines along the edge of the wall where I've recessed LEDs. But then again, with the difficulties there, I had to like make aluminium heat sinks. There's aluminium plates across there that hold the timber together, because when you cut through the timber, it gets quite weak when it's only that wide.
Yeah.
But also then dissipates the heat of the LEDs. So yeah, they're all hidden inside there. And when they're off, it's really great because you don't notice them.
Yeah. You are an exceptionally clever man and a very good engineer. And one thing that tends to be more true for engineers is that practicality takes forefront and aesthetics can often take a back seat, but that is not true in this build. This is exquisitely beautiful, and the way that you have designed the actual spatial appearance of this place is equally as impressive as the engineering.
Oh, for me, a space should feel beautiful, but it should function well as well. I don't think we should ever lose functionality for aesthetics, but I don't think we have to trade off aesthetics. Like my light switches that I've designed, they are really beautiful. It's a solid brass knob. It's a brass plate, you know, little brass Allen screws. Like I just even get those screws right. I had to get them like CNC made in China. But they're a beautiful feature of the house, but they work really well functionally. So you kind of turn them on like a tap and it glows the lights on and glows them off.
And it's so cool to geek out with you over the materials and the experience of building it. But from another complete perspective, you would be able to walk into this home and just appreciate everything. Like just sitting down in that comfortable looking couch, taking advantage of the big picture window, enjoying the breeze that comes through the vents. What a lovely space to be in.
Really enjoyable. And the sides of the windows are completely level with the walls. And so it feels like the house just disappears. And the amount of people I get in here is just like, they just have this moment. It's like, I can just picture myself sitting there with a coffee. And like, you know, the window's deeper than the others. So you can sit a coffee on there like, or a glass of wine. It's really beautiful.
Absolutely. And then practically again, we've got the kitchen, which is right in the center of this part of the home. And what a feature.
Yeah, so feng shui would say probably not in the right spot. However, what I wanted to be able to do was extend the house outwards. So, you know, I've got some stairs there at the moment, which are temporary. And the plan is when I find permanent resting space is to build a deck into that L shape there. And so then, you know, you can entertain in the house. And I put it here so like you've got people that can sit on the couch, you can have people here, and you can, the person who is, you know, prepping in the kitchen isn't removed from the social aspect of the house.
Yeah.
And in the evening, you know, when everything's closed up, I've got the light just glowing down this bench. It's a beautiful little space. And like you can just picture, you know, cheese board and wine, taking it over to the couch there and sitting down. It's really nice.
And obviously, when we're talking about practicality of living in a tiny house, storage takes forefront there. Can we talk about the storage that's been built into this home?
Everywhere.
Why does that not surprise me?
Yeah. So I went a bit deeper with the kitchen, so I could get full 600 drawers, but anywhere else I could build it as well. So underneath the couch, there's storage goes all around the edge, but I've gone all drawers, which makes it a lot more functional, be able to open and close stuff, get into them regularly, as opposed to bending down and trying to get to the back of a cupboard.
I've noticed as well the use of brass here on the drawers as well. Again, that just looks so good.
Yeah, that detail of brass that continues throughout the house, like it's on the edges of the windows, it's on the reveals, it's on the handles. Yeah, so it continued that theme.
Yeah, brilliant. And I see we've got the sink there, we've got stovetop. I don't see an oven in here.
No, I didn't go with an oven. I love cooking on a barbecue, so roast in the barbecue, but inside air fryer / smart oven. So when I roast veggies for stuff, I want to do a small roast because, you know, it's only going to be me and maybe, you know, a partner in here. So I didn't put one in, but I did manage to get in a dishwasher and make space to be able to put those in. So these have been designed to fit a microwave in here.
Okay.
Smart oven can go up in there, so it's accessible and it can come down onto the bench. And those big drawers down the bottom will fit one of those appliances. So they can be tucked away and pulled out, but then hidden away. We don't need it.
Yeah. And I actually really agree with that as well. Personally, I do 90% of my cooking on the barbecue as well, because I think there's a lot to be said for just getting cooking outside of a home as well.
Yeah.
Especially in a tiny house, that's more true than a regular home. So I think that's a really, really nice way of tackling that.
Baking, not my jam, but can I cook some healthy food and get it out and get it done? Yeah, it's me.
I get you. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It does. You've got the fold-up table there as well?
Yeah, so one of the things I spent some time doing was what I'm going to do for a dining table. It was semi-afterthought. So I made this cool little table that is a side table off to the side. You can pull it in as a coffee table and, you know, set up some drinks on it. or it works as a dining table too. So I wanted to maximize that space there. So when you fold out the leaves fold out and the little legs come out, and you get a table you could squeeze 6 people very, very comfortably.
Great.
It works really well.
Yeah. Absolutely stunning timber in here as well. What kind of timber is this?
So this is Victorian ash. The floor is actually offcuts. So when I was making all the windows, it was much thicker than what I needed. So I had to run through a saw and cut off all these slithers. I had this pile of slithers and I wasn't sure what I was going to do on the floor. So I was like, I kind of just looked into it. I'm like, well, engineered flooring is just a veneer of timber on top of planks. I'm like, why can't I just do a veneer of timber on top of my floor? Spent a lot of time prepping them and sanding because they, running through a table saw, they all varied in size. And then I polyurethane these straight onto the OSB that was underneath.
Right.
But again, because I didn't want to use fasteners, get this nice, beautiful, clean look, I had to do it in strips. So I do like 4 pieces at a time, put a board and then like wedge it so they don't move apart because they can sort of float on the polyurethane.
Yeah.
Sandbags on top and then come back the next day and do the next row and the next row. Slow process, but it came out beautiful. And then once I run the sander over it all, it just came to life. Got Osmo oil on there and it's beautiful. It looks really nice. I love when you're standing on that, you're touching raw material, which is just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see a couple of PowerPoints there in the kitchen as well.
Yeah, so I had this thing of have no visible PowerPoints in the house. I don't think they look nice and I want them hidden away, but still functional. So because I had this glass splashback in the kitchen here, I couldn't have PowerPoints on the wall and then it's sort of difficult putting them on. So I've got this electronic pop-up PowerPoint that I just touch that, raises up. I can plug in and use any appliances that I want. Then when I'm done, closes away.
Yeah, and then the bathroom is through there. Can we take a look?
Have a look.
Again, this is just stunning. The way that you have incorporated the windows in here, that skylight above the shower, just wow.
Yeah, my little moon roof in the shower. So I wanted a nice space. The hardest thing with bathrooms is keeping the weight down. So continued to ply through and I sealed these more than every others and I've sealed the back of them to make sure that moisture isn't an issue. It hasn't been an issue yet, but I've put ventilation into the shower. So that roof window that I've got also has a vent that sucks up through there. So it's being sucked straight out of the shower. You can't see the vent, which is great. And that gets vented straight outside. So you don't see a plastic fan inside the bathroom, which we know my aversion to. I've done aqua paneling on the wall, so it's nice and lightweight, but still like that theme of brass and ply continuing to here makes this a nice space that doesn't feel sterile or there's like plastic bits and pieces everywhere. And so it's kind of fun. I've got a full 900 shower, which is a luxury in a tiny house and, raised head and there's, a shelf in there that opens out to this bathroom. I actually have a bit of space in here as well.
Yeah. And is this built out onto the drawbar? Is that how you've made that work?
Yeah. I built that out over the drawbar.
Yeah. And again, looking at that shower, it would be easy for me to think, yep, beautiful, simple, but that is anything but true in this, isn't it? You've done something really special with the shower.
Yes, I automated part of that as well. And in fact, there's a story to that where of all the crazy stuff I've done in this house, I actually stopped myself. So initially, I was going to fully automate the temperature of the shower. So I've got a manifold I actually started building in there where I could go, hey Google, turn my shower on to 36 degrees and it would just turn it on. So I had to find a thermometer that would sense fast enough. So I had that from France. It's like 1 millimeter probe, these 2 little drive motors, adjusted the valves to adjust the temperature. And then I was trying to work out how do you create an interface inside the shower that you could adjust that. And then at the end, I was like, put a tap in, Philip. Like it's just, there's a point at which you're going too far. But what I did sort of design through that was this idea of being able to recirculate water. So, when you're living off grid, water's pretty precious and it's not actually functional at the moment, but all the provision is there. So what I created is just looking at that idea of temperature and being able to blend, I can actually sense what the temperature is. So I can turn on the shower and then recirculate water back through to my rainwater tank. And so particularly with gas, you waste a minute of water just heating up. Yeah. So that water that's heating up can get recirculated back through to the rainwater tank. And then when it's ready, I turn it on. So I'm not wasting all that water, particularly, it's really dry at the moment. Yeah. Running out of rainwater is a real thing when you're off grid. So yeah, that isn't functional, but it is, the provisions are all there and I've got all the stuff to do it. But it is also automated. So as soon as you turn that tap on, the fan starts running, the lights glow on. So it's cool. So you just walk in, turn it on, it just all just happens. And then you turn off the shower and the fan will just run for a while after and clean out all the steam.
Absolute genius. I love that idea. That is just so clever. And then again in here, just the level of bespokeness. This is a door button, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was a light switch and almost closed the door on myself.
Yeah. Part of that was to do a cavity sliding door you need it sticking out to be able to grab it. Or you can have a little latch. And I was like, well, I'm automating everything else. Why don't I make the door open and close by itself? So here's a little touch panel there.
Wow. And you have even custom designed your composting toilet here too.
Yeah, it was the one thing in the tiny house market I think was really lacking. I didn't like anything. So I was trying to work out what I could do. And so I was looking at all the systems. Probably one of the best is having the large canister underneath. I couldn't really work with the trailer where I've got the drawbar coming through. So it had to be a canister system. But also then I made this like curved timber, composting toilet, which looks really nice. It just flows with the rest of it. It doesn't stand out. It goes with the rest of the aesthetic, but it looks really nice. And one of the interesting things about canister toilets, what they don't tell you is you have to pull the canister out and carry it through the house.
Yeah.
So I built a hatch into the side of the house where I can just push a button from the outside, that opens out. I can swap a canister. I'm not coming near the inside. So on the inside, you get this beautiful timber structure and, having to swap out canisters all from the outside, which is really cool.
Brilliant. Beautiful vanity in here as well with the mirror that just looks so good. And it's not very intrusive in the space, but you've got a lot of area in here to work with.
I've got drawers underneath the vanity, which give me heaps of storage there. It's also where I keep the hemp or sawdust for my composting toilet. And then I managed to build in a space for a washing machine underneath the vanity there. So the vanity's now this wide, but the washing machine then goes through into the other side in the bedroom inside my wardrobe. So I can fit a washer and dryer unit down the side there.
Looks fantastic.
Thank you.
And then next we've got your bedroom. Can we take a look at that?
Let's go have a look.
Again, another fantastic room here. Clean, beautiful lines. That feature window really makes the room, doesn't it?
Yeah, I really wanted to do that to create a bit of space in the bedroom, but also it looks really cool just having a corner window. And the other thing is it actually gives a bit of space when I'm walking out of the bedroom for the shoulder, sort of as you're getting out of bed to turn around. Yeah, it looks really beautiful and I love getting up to that in the morning.
Fantastic. And you mentioned there's a lot of storage under this bed as well.
Yeah. So this bed lifts up and then there's storage that goes down underneath the trailer. So pretty much the entire bed is just full of storage. And then the end here is like a double layer shoe rack.
What's the vent in the ceiling up there?
So that's actually the return air to my air conditioning. So I ducted air conditioning through here. So that's return air and the air blows out through the main house there and then circulates back up through here. So you get this circulation of air. But I also made this variable air valve inside there with a motor that will open up the valve and then blow air just inside the bedroom. So at night time when you haven't got as much solar, you can just be circulating inside here and not trying to cool down the whole house as well.
And then again, tons of storage in here.
Yeah. So this wardrobe actually forms the wall to the bedroom. This will just fit a coat hanger there. So there's hanging storage and all of these here. These are all illuminated, so you open it up and it glows down and then drawers down below. And then this here, there's all of my automation cabinet up the top there, the washing machine that comes through from the bathroom in the bottom, then shelving in here. And then this door here actually forms a door to the bedroom if I ever want to, which again, I'd never do. Like it was just so much work to get that nice and seamless against there, but then get to the door to line up and open up and close against there. I remember talking to the cabinet maker's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, I've got to do it now. Like, I got to work it out. And so to make all of the cabinetry here work, to then work as a door as well was really hard. But it's cool because it's like, it doesn't exist and then exists when I need it.
Yeah. This level of bespokeness you would only ever find in a DIY tiny house because commercially you just couldn't make this work, could you?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't pay to do it. Like I wouldn't pay someone to do it. And to be honest, like the only thing I had done externally was this stuff cut because the cabinet maker's got a CNC. I designed it all. We sat down on the software, made it up, he machined it, and then I just built it all and installed, etc.
So if tomorrow you were going to shift these tiny houses, what does that look like? How does that process work?
Yeah, so that sliding roof there will track back inside the side trailer there. I then lift up these floor panels. So these floor panels are in 3 separate panels. I have a lifter underneath there. So there's this thing that comes around and lifts up a sort of a rail, and that allows me to slide the rails up inside here. So those floor panels actually sit on top of the couch there and they can be strapped down. Those 2 side pieces down the side there, it all just pulls off, mainly all held on with magnets. Then retract those pins and then the 2 walls slide that swing around and they stack in front of each other. And then to relocate, if I was going a long way, I'd probably tarp it up and they're ready to transport. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is such a tremendous project. So much has gone into this. What was the 4 years of building this actually like for you?
At times relentless.
Yeah.
I have these different phases of the project that get hard. And so it's, like the first half is great fun. Everything's changing. Then you get a bit of a lull and it's like, okay, you're still pushing through. And then you get to this 80% mark and it's getting hard. there's probably a point, if I'm honest, like I was in the last 5% of finishing this interior. I was like waiting on some cabinetry. It was down to all the tricky bits of the house. It's like, oh yeah, you've done all this. Like, how do you make this thing come together that's nice and neat? And I like so close to just resenting the house because it's like, I'm just done. You know, it's drained me financially, it's drained me like physically. But then it's like, well, you just got to get in and do it. And then, you know, like last 2%, like you can see the end, it's coming together, it all looks awesome. But it was a brilliant journey. I really loved how much I learned through the process. Was that a smart idea to go build it? Probably not, but did I enjoy the process of getting to learn electronics and like writing the code for that? Yeah, absolutely. That was really cool. And like, you know, some of that stuff I'm really proud of. And so now it's done and the pain's over, I can look back and like, yeah, this is really cool. It's fun to play with. And some of it I'm still sort of, you know, tweaking and refining, but it is a cool little project that it sort of lives on as I continue to tweak some of that stuff. So yeah, ups and downs, but beautiful journey as well.
And it wasn't just the design and building everything. You also were documenting this whole process for YouTube, which is a mammoth task in its own right.
Oh yeah. I kind of wanted to share to help other people learn because, you know, when I was looking to build my own tiny house, tons of time on your channel and then watching other people, I'm like, yeah, learn from other people's mistakes, like what's good and what's not. I underestimated how much work that was. I calculated at one point, I wasn't even finished. I'd spent 3.5 months just editing videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. But, you know, also there were some crazies that come along the way that were just so engaged with what I was doing. It was wonderful to get them out and the sort of regulars that come back. And so that in itself was just fun to share that journey.
You get that little community that just helps you to push on.
Oh, 100%. If I ever have to do something video or YouTube related again, I'm getting someone else to film. One of the things it forced me to learn was, I think, acceptance, which almost sounds a bit cliche, but like the house is inanimate, right? You can't negotiate with it. And so you'd hit these difficult parts of the build and I'm very much, I just got to keep going and just like push through. It's like, sometimes you can't. And that for me is frustrating. But you can't get angry at it because the house just is what it is. And so you hit this like seriously difficult challenge and you kind of just need to accept that's what it is. And you need to then accept it's going to take the time it takes to work that out, which I think probably then translates into then life and learning to work with people. Like, you know, it's accepting people for more who they are and having a little bit more patience for that. So I think I was pretty good with perseverance. It definitely taught me a bit more, but acceptance, and that was just through brute force. It's like, you're not going to win this argument, mate.
The level of quality and customization in this house is second to none. I'm almost scared to ask what this cost to build.
I was probably tracking early on, and then I was like, no, I don't think we want to know. I'm like, let's just roll with it. Look, I was trying to do back of the envelope. I think it would have been somewhere in the vicinity of 70 to 80,000.
Is that all?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Despite the level of finish on this thing, I was really trying to do it on a tight budget.
Wow.
So that's why I made so much. So, you know, like the glass for the window. So I had a glazier cut and get the glass, like, you know, it's all toughened glass. It was only a couple $1,000s. The timber was like $1,600. And then, you know, maybe like $500 in brass. And then a couple of bucks in adhesives, right? And it was funny because I remember when I was getting something from the cabinet maker there, he's a mate, and I was like, talking about, he goes, what those windows cost you? And I'm like, oh, you know, like a few $1,000s. And he goes, what it cost you in labor? And I'm like, shut up. So yeah, the labor of it was intense. But yeah, so the reason I managed to sort of come out around those prices was I was just very frugal and I did everything myself. Like,
yeah. I mean, if you factored your time into that equation, this could easily be a $500,000 plus tiny house.
Oh, hundreds of thousands, yeah. And like, we don't factor my labor into it because that would make me cry. In fact, near the end, I was actually saying to friends, like, this is art. That's the cool thing about this house is I probably couldn't have funded a tiny house to this level to have someone build it, but I'm really grateful that, you know, I've got the skills to do that. And, you know, my attitude, my father, we always had this saying, like, don't be a tradesman, be a craftsman.
So with the bulk of the build now behind you, what's next for this tiny house?
Yeah, so I'm not here full time at the moment. The plan is to find some land, a space that complements the house and the way it's designed to be able to take an external environment, right? So like, you know, that window at the end there has to have a view. I want it surrounded by trees. So And I love being near water. So hopefully, yeah, somewhere Hawkesbury River or, you know, like base of the Blue Mountains, something like that over there.
Great plan. Phil, I have seen a lot of tiny houses, but I have never seen anything like this. It is going to take me weeks to process what I've seen today. This is just such an incredible accomplishment. Thank you so much for sharing it with me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to show you through.
What Phil has accomplished here cannot be understated. The amount of complexity, ingenuity, and just pure perseverance that went into making this tiny home possible is absolutely mind-blowing to me. This is one of the most incredible projects that I have ever had the privilege of visiting. And beyond that, Phil's personal journey with this, the 4 years that he spent in meditation and acceptance of building such a difficult thing, to me is just really inspiring. I think this really goes to show what people are capable of if they just really dedicate themselves to something that they love.